All right, Blake, if you were going to write a book, what would it be about?
Mixers and mixed drinks, the ultimate guide of what drink to make on your console.
Welcome to the Church Gear Podcast, where we pull the tech out of the booth and onto the stage to share the most outlandish stories and hidden wisdom from the tech trenches. And now, here are your hosts.
I'm your host, Blake Hodges, a man who may or may not have already had some bourbon in my Diet Coke right now. And I'm here with my co-host who could never drink at work because he's such a lightweight, Toby Walters.
I am very much lightweight. Like, very little alcohol affects me a lot. Like, I'll get a cocktail at a restaurant on occasion and I'll have 3 sips and then I'll start to feel happy.
And you'll start to text me and say random things.
Like you're fired.
Yeah, but
Jared, that's very normal.
Me and the sales director get some fun texts from Toby on Friday night.
Yeah, and I love sending you pictures of my drinks because they're like, they either have a flower and an umbrella. They're usually fun colors. Like, that's totally my vibe. I know.
I'm muting myself on, like, I ran through
Your
5
judgment?
jokes and I couldn't say any of them, so I just said nothing.
Yeah. So our listeners might know, if they've been listening the last week or two, that we are talking about that. Blake, I'm writing a book, or actually I've written the book, which is insane to think. When I said, Blake, I'm going to write a book, what was your thought? Like, did you think I'd actually do it?
All right, how real are we going to get on this podcast?
Just give it to me straight up,
Me and the
Blake.
chief of staff both made a bet on if you would finish the book this year.
Yeah.
And my memory's not the best.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure neither of us said you would finish it by the year.
Okay.
And we're recording this in June.
I know. Boom, baby.
Also, though, I found out sitting at a bar last night, ChatGPT can already write you an 800-page novel. So I don't know if you wrote a book or if Chat wrote you a book.
That's a good question. So everything I've read about using AI to write a book is that AI is just not good at long-form content yet.
AI overlords, when you come for us, I never said that. That was Toby.
So to clarify, I wrote the entire book. I did use AI on occasion to help me organize thoughts, or like help, kind of massage a line. If I couldn't figure out the thought like exactly, it would just help kind of reformulate it just a bit. But that's as far as I went with AI.
You willing to put a hand on the Bible and say that again?
Hand on the Bible. Yeah,
Okay.
Bring me a Bible.
Okay,
I'll do it. So, Blake, I want to hear about this. So I like mixers and mixed drinks, and this is kind of a fun, idea for a would it be a coffee table book?
That could be a great coffee table book. We could make it and give it away as a prize, when you're, a friend of Church Gear. So
that'd be fun if, like, Digico had its own signature Blake mixed drink, and Yamaha had its own signature mixed drink.
The more you talk about this, the more it goes from a joke to a real idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Give every
I think
single
it'd be
partner
fun.
a shout out.
Totally.
We have a professional photographer on staff.
I know. And you don't actually do any other work around here, so you can focus all your time now on this book idea.
I know. Most of my time working is just drinking on the job, so we can actually make it productive now.
I know. And today we're going to talk about the chapter in the elements of excellent production. So this is a chapter in my book. We brought on an expert guest. Blake, what would be the essential elements of a great mixed drink that also is, kind of signature for a mixer?
The most overlooked item is ice. There's a very famous bartender that was asked, and she said, I'd rather have a bad spirit than bad ice.
That's fascinating.
Because this is the thing that dilutes your cocktail, and it's the number one ingredient in every cocktail. Whether you shake it or stir it, you're getting more water than you are anything else.
I actually like that. I'm going to make a parallel. I think in writing, you got to have a great story. I don't care what else you put around it. If you have the great story to anchor everything, then the rest of the content will flow.
And maybe I would like a parallel. So we got drinks, we have writing. I want the parallel in production.
Yep.
What's the thing that is most of the subject matter, but no one even knows it's there or takes it for granted? So answering that question is the director of media at Prestonwood Baptist, Bryan Bailey. Bryan, welcome back to
How's it going? Good to see you guys.
Can you riff on this analogy with us? What would you in production say is the ice of production?
I would say that preparation is the ice of production, because it doesn't matter how talented you are, how good the gear is. If you don't prepare well, then you're going to get what you put into it.
I like that. Because, shaking the ice in a cocktail is what prepares it to be a drink.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, you guys enjoy this podcast. I'm going to go make a drink.
And I also feel like Bryan is the ice of this episode. He is going to keep us grounded with you and I just swirling around as the spirits.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's ice, you're ice, and I'm baby. Ice, baby.
There we go.
It's a song by McCann.
I've clearly had less to drink than either of you, so I think
I should hope
that's probably where it is. Yeah.
All right, Bryan. Well, you've been on the pod multiple times before. In fact, 37% of our audience said they're sick of you, and 63% didn't respond to the survey. So, in light of that, can you give us a snapshot of your background and what makes you qualified to be the ice in our mixer cocktail of, production?
Couldn't land the plane on that one.
No, I tried. I needed a.
It's okay. It's all right. We're continuing the theme. No, I'm holding on to that 63%. That feels pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So I've had an interesting life in some ways. I started out as a lighting person. I should say I started out as a worship leader and singer and performer. That's actually what my degree was in. I went to Ouachita Baptist in Arkansas, got a degree in church music, and intended to lead worship. That's what I felt called to do. And very quickly got kind of pulled into technology as well as worship leading there at Ouachita when I graduated. And then Prestonwood called me to be the lighting director back in 2004. So I spent a couple years at Prestonwood, which is where I grew up, by the way, as the lighting director. Then I went up to Northwest Arkansas at what is now Cross Church at the Pinnacle Hills campus as the director of media up there for 6 years. And then down to First Baptist Dallas for 6 years as the minister of media. And then came back to Prestonwood in 2017. So I've been there, it'll be 8 years in October as the director of media.
His episode is coming back to me, Toby. He had the impressive story of actually going back to a job. When I leave church gear, I'm tossing a Molotov cocktail over my shoulder, and I'm out of here.
Oh, well, you do it in slow motion, though.
Yeah, and this place is done because it can't live if I'm not here. So I can't imagine coming back.
How can you throw a Molotov cocktail when you're dead? Because you're going to die here.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe that will be how we Viking funeral me.
Yeah. All right, Bryan.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We feature you and some stories from Prestonwood and the Gift of Christmas in my book, and some really fun details and stories. Can you give us just sort of a few stats and realities of Gift of Christmas and what it takes to put on?
Yeah, absolutely. We've been doing the Gift of Christmas in some form for probably about between 30 and 35 years. It's had different names. It's had kind of different iterations, but it's essentially been Prestonwood's Christmas thing for that long. And so we do, it's usually in multiple acts. And the format that we've landed on is we want the first act to be family fun, Christmassy, Santa Claus, reindeer, the whole 9 yards, very family Christmas oriented with the goal of, bring your kids to this thing. If they fall asleep later, that's fine, but they're going to really love this first act. And it kind of pulls everybody into it. And then we move into more of very much of a gospel presentation in the next couple of acts. And we utilize choir, we utilize orchestra, we utilize lots of dancers, lots of singing groups, solos, flying drummers, all the different things. And the vast majority of everybody who's involved in the Gift of Christmas is church members. So we've got the choir, we've got the orchestra. We do auditions in the fall where people from all over the church come in, and we do dance auditions. We do singing auditions. There's all sorts of different aspects of the show that volunteers can be involved in, including, backstage crew, makeup, costuming, like every element of any large scale production, we have volunteers involved in that. We also have contractors that we bring in to partner with to make sure that it is super high quality and safe. Any of the flying stuff, special effects, all that sort of thing. We want to make sure that's done exactly the way it needs to be done. But even in like makeup and props and costuming, that's like 100% volunteers and or some folks from like the worship ministry staff.
Toby, he just so casually said they have dancing at church in Texas. This is scandalous.
They're not Nazarenes. They can dance.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
We've come a long way.
Worse than the Flying Drummer
Yeah.
Boys.
So, Bryan, how many people average attendance every year for Gift of Christmas? And then how many people does it take to put this whole thing on?
So currently we do 14 shows over 2 different weekends. So we'll kick off on a Friday night. We do 3 Saturday shows, 2 Sunday shows, both weekends. And then we are dark on Monday and Tuesday in between, but then Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night. So we do 14 shows, and that totals out to around between 70 and 75,000 folks who come in. Almost every performance is sold out. At this point, we don't really do any marketing for it or anything. It's the sort of thing where you download the Gift of Christmas app, and the day the tickets go on sale, you jump on there, because after the first weekend, it's hard to find seats together in decent locations. So huge audience. It's phenomenal. And I'm sure we'll talk more about this in a little bit with the audience and how our church members really get involved in that. But then it takes between 1,000 and 1,500 volunteers to pull it all together. So when you add in the choir, the orchestra, the all of the different cast members that I was talking about, people working backstage, people working front of house, back of house. We land somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 volunteers.
You said 75,000 in attendance?
Yes, sir.
So Cowboys Stadium has 80,000 seats. So they fill a Cowboys Stadium amount of, who would ever go to that stadium? It's trash, but they fill a Cowboys Stadium worth of people for Gift of Christmas.
And honestly, it kind of sounds familiar to me. So 75,000 people, tickets sell out, no marketing. That just sounds like every episode of the Church Gear podcast.
I was going to say Taylor Swift, but right underneath Taylor Swift. Yes, the
just
Church Gear podcast.
Right under there.
Unless we have Bryan Bailey, then you got the 33%
that's
that
true.
opt out.
Yeah.
So,
this episode will dip a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah. So, Bryan, 1,500 volunteers. Now, most churches are thinking like, I can't even get somebody to run my sound mixer on Sundays.
Most churches are thinking, I don't even have 1,500 people that go to my church.
Well, sure.
You have more people that volunteer than go to our church.
Yeah. Like, how are you getting that many volunteers? Are you begging? Are you, throwing big cash checks out there to get these people to volunteer?
Well, then they wouldn't really be volunteers at that point. No, and I think it is important to say on the outset of this is not normal. And I think it's important to understand we know that. It's important for everybody else to know that. And I think the important thing for as far as the Gift of Christmas goes for people listening to this podcast, I think what's important is to take elements of this and use it as encouragement for yourself or for your church leaders who are wanting to do something like this, and understand that it is something, there are parts of this that you can figure out how to apply to your ministry and the things that you're doing. Again, I think we'll probably get into this at some point, but this isn't something that I would say, all right, take notes and do exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
That's not the point of this. So to your question, we don't have to really, it's not like pulling teeth to get people to help with this deal. But part of the reason for that is we've been doing it for so long. Everybody knows there's a culture that has been established within the church regarding this show. And so everybody understands what it's about. We reiterate every year, what the goal of these things are. Before every single show, we have a different minister on staff come and speak to the cast and crew. And it's kind of just like a rally where they're pumping everybody up, but it's all about the outreach that's happening. This is the single largest event we do from an outreach perspective the entire year, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So everybody who is a member of Prestonwood wants to be a part of that because of the mission of it.
Yeah.
Now, there's ancillary things too, like if you know, if you've got a kid who's a dancer, or if you're a dancer, then this is a very cool outlet for you. If you're a singer, this is a great outlet for you. If you love technology, this is a great outlet for you. So people are, just like we should be doing on a weekly basis from a serving perspective, finding areas of the church where we feel like God has given us some talents and desires that we can pour back into. Gift of Christmas is a unique opportunity above and beyond what we do on a regular weekly basis for people to serve and to, you know, come in and, like you said, dance. We're not doing dance every Sunday. We're pretty much only doing dance when we do the Gift of Christmas. So it's a unique opportunity for people in the church to jump in and kind of give back in a different way than they can usually.
Yeah. So you talked about, you know, casting the vision, sharing the vision, that you have a pastor come in every showing and just speaking that again over your volunteers. Transfer that to Sunday morning, because I think this is absolutely a huge element of creating an excellent production is casting and sharing the vision. So how do you and your team share the vision with somebody just, you know, volunteering with a camera on Sunday morning or running sound or whatever they're doing? How does the vision get translated and shared to those people?
Whips and chains.
Well, part of it is just
chains.
If we have to, but ideally before we get to that point, it's all about developing the culture of the ministry in which they're serving beforehand. So back in the before times, when I worked at Prestonwood the first time, it was a different kind of mindset for all of that. And I was the lighting guy, so I would come in on Sunday morning. I would have already programmed everything. I come in, I'm usually the first one in there. Then some other of the tech team shows up. And then there would be this kind of sound check where just a handful of the rhythm section singers come out and do some stuff. And then we would do the service. And that was kind of it. There wasn't any sort of, it was just a different way of doing things, and it worked and it was fine. And we made that happen. But there were things of that were missing for me that I was able to take away as I went on to do other things. And now, one of the things I love is we have a morning production meeting where all the volunteers who are going to be involved are there. Some of the worship team is in that. We kind of pull everybody together before the sound check even starts. And we go through the run of the service, but we're also talking about the spiritual elements of that as well. And we pray. And at that point, we all remember, okay, we're one team. Here's why we're doing this. And we go out and we do our stuff. And then after the rehearsals and sound check, we come back together as the worship and media teams, and each week there's somebody different who does a devotional. And, it's only 5 to 10 minutes, but it's kind of that mindset of, look, this is not a performance. This is not here for the sake of we're just supposed to do this every week. We are worship leaders, every single one of us, even on the tech team, and we have to keep our minds focused on what's important this morning. So we have 2 or sometimes 3 different moments during the Sunday morning process where we're making sure that everybody is coming back to that and focusing on that. And it's just a really spiritually healthy way for us to do that. But on top of that, we don't just snap our fingers and make that happen on Sunday morning. That's something that we've cultivated in the culture of the worship and media teams, like from the ground up. So everybody on the paid staff understands our mission, our core values, what it is that we're supposed to be doing. And therefore the volunteers who come in, that's the first thing we're teaching them. I mean, if you were to come and volunteer in the media ministry, the very first thing you would do is watch a video that we've recorded on our mission and core values to understand, look, there's technology. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the most important thing is this ministry is helping to get the gospel out to the people in the room and the people all over the world who need to see it. And you should be excited about that more than you should be excited about the cool tech that we get to use. Yeah. And it's the same thing for the gift of Christmas. Everybody understands this is the focus of this. And we don't just assume they do, we ensure that they do by constantly dripping that into them along the way.
Yeah. I love that because, as the founder of Church Gear and as I read business books over the years before I started a business, it over and over and over, it just said, mission, vision, values, that has to be clear. That has to be, a mission that people want to get involved in. And you just got to share it over and over and over. And, I love what you're saying because I don't know why that wouldn't then be front and center of a production ministry. If people don't know why they're doing it, then why would they stay doing it?
And it should be, but unfortunately, I think a lot of people they'll take what you just said and what I say all the time as well, and they'll say, well, that's so corporate. We're not a corporation. We're not a business. And it's this idea that we need to be Holy Spirit driven. And I agree, but that doesn't mean that we just flop around and wait for something to fill us and see what happens. Yeah. I think the Holy Spirit has called us to be strategic in how we do that. And, different ministries are going to have different maybe emphasis on what they do. It's like Prestonwood, we do the gift of Christmas partly because God has resourced our church to be able to do something like that. If we had a different calling as a church in the way that we want to reach people, then the gift of Christmas might not make sense for us to do. But for Prestonwood, it does, and we're able to do it extremely well. But you have to be able to articulate, like if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm interested in serving somewhere. What do you guys do in media? I should have a very clear answer to be able to say, here's what we do. More importantly, here's why we do it. Yeah. And then there's technology too. So we have a lot of people who join our media team that are actually a little bit scared of the technology, but they're so excited about the mission of what we do that they're willing to try and overcome that fear of the technology.
Yeah. And I think often, pastors, worship leaders, production directors at churches can just feel a little overwhelmed by the idea of, I have to write a mission statement now. I have to write core values. And I think, just a simple way to get started, take the mission and core values of your church, drop them into ChatGPT and say, can you give me a version of this that would apply to production? And then see what it spits out. And that's just a good starting place. Like that'll get you a good portion of the way there. And then you can just sort of massage it to the way that it, makes sense and would sound good to new volunteers to inspire them to want to be a part of the mission.
Yeah. Well, it's a good leadership exercise anyway, because I used to be of the mindset of, well, that just seems silly. I mean, we all know what we're doing, right? We wouldn't be here if we didn't all know what we're doing. And I didn't realize that not everybody thinks that way. Not everybody is thinking the same way that I am. And being able to articulate, this is our mission. And on top of our mission, here's the core values of our particular ministry. If this is something that maybe you don't jive with, then you're probably not going to fit well on the team. Yeah. So there might be another place that's better for you to serve. But we want to put all of that stuff out right in front so that people know what the expectations are. And we feel that those expectations are godly and they're sound and they're going to get us where we need to go.
Yeah. Blake, what's the mission of the Church Gear podcast? I know what the mission of Church Gear is, but does the podcast have a mission?
Yeah, to keep Blake and Toby entertained so that they will not mess up the operation of Church Gear.
I am scared that that's actually true, that other people around Church Gear is like, hey, why don't you two start a podcast? Just be in there for a while. Stay in there. Okay, you can come out now.
Should I finally tell you after all these years, you're in the Truman Show. Your wife pays me to babysit you so you don't mess up the business.
I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that we want to be a part of this because it's such ridiculousness, but we bring on the guest who is so brilliant. Bryan, I'm making a terrible segue here, but I want to ask, the gift of Christmas specifically, you're saying, that's the only time of the year we have dancers. That's the only time of the year we do this. You've told me that it's the biggest, the most difficult, the most intensive thing you guys do. So, how does the level of excellence play into now 1,500 people actually want to get involved in volunteering for that?
Speaking of which, I've been using chat over here. Less than 2% of churches in America have over 1,500 members. So you have more than 98% of churches volunteering for you at this event. keeping that scope.
I told you it's not normal. I mean, we are very aware of that. It's not normal. It's a crazy thing. But to your point, the excellence level, and listen, this is true for Gift of Christmas, and I wholeheartedly believe that this is true for every day, every Sunday church as well. When we set the bar super high and when we are executing at a very, very high level of excellence, that is attractive to people. It's not an attractional model. And that's what I think these days people are getting confused. And I understand it, because there's an attractional model of church out there that is, in my opinion, and many others, very unhealthy, certainly unbiblical. And there's a lot of pitfalls that come along with that. What's sad to me is people have allowed the idea of the attractional model of church to equal, we shouldn't do things with excellence, because doing things with excellence equals attractional model.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand this before we kind of got into this with like the whole flying drummer video that went on Instagram and stuff like that. And as I was reading through all of the comments on that, which I tried not to very much, but I also wanted to respond to people who had legitimate questions, which there weren't very many of. But I found this thread of these people who were literally saying the church should not be doing things with excellence. And my mind just kind of imploded, because I'm like, but the Bible, like the Bible says that we should be, and why wouldn't we? And it took me a while to understand that I think that there's this equation with excellence is attractional church model is bad. Mm-hmm. And we have to do a better job as a church in general of separating those two things and understanding we should do things with excellence. The Bible clearly calls us to do things with excellence, but it means that we have to protect ourselves somehow from allowing that pursuit of excellence to become this other thing, this attractional model. Now, what's nice about it is what we just talked about. When you have a clear mission and core values, when you stick with that, that's going to keep you from straying off the path into something totally different.
Yeah.
But it requires a constant dripping of that and a constant revisiting of it to make sure we're doing the right thing. And the Gift of Christmas is a great example of one of those things that we have to be super careful with, because you can do cool stuff. It's like, okay, we want to do lasers. Okay. Why do we want to do lasers? Okay, this particular thing, lasers would improve this. It would enhance this. It's cool. Now let's even go into the design, because we don't want to just use lasers to say, look, lasers. We want the lasers to be doing something that is pulling people into the show. It's immersive. It's whatever. So there's thinking, there's reasoning behind all of it. It's kind of like the first act. The first act is a little bit wheels off from a church standpoint, only because it's Santa Claus and flying reindeer and whatever else. But the point of that, like I said, is if you've got somebody who has never been to church or hates church or doesn't want to step foot into church, let's provide a safe place for them to come in where they can say, oh, this is nice. This is a really well done show, and my kids love it because there's Santa, and this is really entertaining. And it's not a trap, but it softens them up a little bit to go to the next part that's like, okay, and there's this. And we continue to take them on through that. Yeah. So the excellence thing, that's part of why, we don't have a problem getting people to jump in. Church members want to be a part of something that's excellence. And by the way, non-church people will pay money to come and watch something that is done with excellence.
Yeah.
Toby, can you believe this man has Santa and dancers in the same event? Santa is only one letter away from Satan. They're going to hell in a handbasket.
I know. You sound like the Instagram comments right now, Blake.
Well, and how dare he disagree with them? Clearly, the Facebook commenters are church consultants, after all.
Yes.
I mean, a Facebook comment has never led me astray. For instance, there's one that says, Abraham Lincoln invented the internet. That's just true.
And it's people like you that keep the algorithm going.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Okay, real talk confession time, boys.
Okay.
Yesterday, the algorithm told me this guy posted on a reel, and he was like, they said they have found Jesus' body in the pyramids. But if you see in this verse in Matthew 27, it says they will claim to find my body in the pyramids. And I was like, dude, that's so crazy. God calling them out, 2,000 years ahead of time. So I'm at the bar later that night and I tell my friends how cool this is. And they tell me to look it up. That verse did not exist.
No.
I got the algorithm got me, Brian.
If you actually,
my dad was a Bible teacher and counselor and things, and he would do that on purpose with people all the time. He would quote a non-scripture to people and just keep going and waiting for somebody to interrupt him. And that's the way, sadly, that our world works. People are able to say things that aren't true, and we just go, "Yeah, I know. I guess so." Man, that's terrible.
Toby, I can't get to Matthew because I'm still stuck in Numbers. I'm trying.
So, Brian, I kind of liken this idea of excellence to, if you're an actor or actress and somebody says, hey, do you want to be part of my indie film? Here's the script. It's not very good. We don't have any budget, but it should be a lot of fun, as opposed
That's how
to
Toby got me to take this job.
Exactly.
It should be a lot of fun.
As opposed to, I have an opportunity to work on Broadway. Yes, the actor actress absolutely going to veer towards the Broadway because that's the best. And everybody is drawn to and wants to be a part of something excellent. If you're just putting something together that's, shoddy, there's not a lot of intention and effort behind it. None of us are going to be surprised that not very many people want to be a part of it.
Yeah, it looks like church gear.
You are fired again.
Well, that's a real thing. There's a really great John Piper quote that I use in part of our training with our volunteers that talks about undistracting excellence. And he goes through all this talking about what our motives should be and all of that. But at the end, he says, shoddy does not mean spiritual, and spiritual does not mean stupid. Mm. And so it's the idea of, the way that I put it is, if you're in a church and you're the worship leader and you want to have somebody come up and sing a solo, and it's Aunt Margaret, she comes in, and everybody loves Aunt Margaret. She's great. She comes up and she can't sing
the Mississippi.
Yeah, her cornbread's amazing. Her vocal skills are extremely lacking, and she gets up and just destroys this song, not in a good way. And everybody says, oh, but she's just got the sweetest heart. So the question is that beneficial? Is that helpful? And some people might say, well, we know her heart. My thing is, okay, you do, but what has that done to the other people in the room who are seeking, who are trying to figure out what this church thing is about? And now you have taken them out of that moment. The Holy Spirit might be trying to talk to them, but you've distracted them with this awful soloist. And I know this is a really harsh example, but I've seen it. So I think everybody can relate to this in some way. And it's the idea that, look, whatever we're doing, whether it's super good or super terrible, should not distract from what our aim is.
Yeah.
So in the same way, if you've got an amazing lighting designer and somebody who's just really great at programming, and they do this killer lighting look for this song that's got all the hits in the right place and all of this, if people are walking out of there saying, dude, the lighting on that song was so incredible, we have missed our mark, because it was excellent, but it was distracting. So it goes both ways on this.
Yeah.
And the people who don't maybe understand the heart behind what we're doing, the lack of excellence is going to be a distraction for them. And that's part of what we want to do. Honestly, every Sunday, we want something where people come in and, yeah, Prestonwood's fairly polished in our presentation of worship and teaching and everything. Part of that is because the size of it, you have to be polished to a degree. Otherwise, it could fall apart really easy. Mm-hmm. Smaller churches can get away with a little bit more kind of unpolished. I'm not saying not excellent, but just it doesn't quite have to be beautiful, perfect transitions every time. But people are drawn to that because what it says to me is these people really care about what it is that they're trying to do up there.
Yeah.
They've put resources into this. They put time into this. And that's an attraction to me. And it kind of draws me into what is this pastor going to say when he gets up to talk? I'm more apt to be interested in what he's saying when we have led into that in the right way.
Yeah. And, if any listener is struggling or their church is struggling with kind of their theology of production and excellence and what the scripture says, I point back to the tabernacle when God gave the directions for the creation of the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant where his presence would dwell. It is so ridiculously detailed with excellence that, how can we now say that excellence is unchristian?
Yeah, it's really hard to argue with that. And there's another great story of, the week that during Holy Week when Mary came in and broke the perfume bottle and poured it over Jesus. And people, the disciples, many of them, especially Judas, were very upset that she had wasted that resource in that way. But Jesus saw that as a beautiful thing. And because of that, we are talking about it over 2,000 years later. And so there's the idea that excellence and even opulence to some degree is something that God wants when we do it with the right heart and when we are pointing back to him with it. And that's where people, again, I think have a hard time dividing this idea of excellence and let's do it all out. Let's be extravagant with it. If it's not pointed in the right way, it becomes that attractional model of church, which is pretty gross a lot of times.
So, for listeners out there that are thinking, yes, we'd love to pursue something great, something excellent. First of all, as we've said, Prestonwood is unique. What you built with Gift of Christmas is unique. But also for you guys, I'm going to guess that, if you've been doing some form of this for 35 years, that 35 years ago, year one, it wasn't as big as it is today. Like, did you start smaller, learn along the way, and build up to what you have now?
Prestonwood has always, I say always, and I think I really mean always. I joined Prestonwood when I was, my family joined when I was 3 years old. So it was 1982. So I got to grow up in this church and see all the iterations of things. And my mom worked at the church for many years that I was in, especially like junior high and high school. So, I'm one of those kids that got to see behind the scenes of everything as well. And fortunately, I still turned out okay. That doesn't always happen to kids who get to see behind the scenes at church growing up.
But did you ever get Sister Margaret's cornbread?
Oh, we didn't really do potlucks. So
no cornbread.
That wasn't really a thing for us. No cornbread for me. No, I was denied the cornbread, sadly. That's clearly had different effects on me throughout the years as well. So I'm just more of a meat and potatoes sort of guy. But we started, obviously it wasn't the size it was now because we weren't even in the size building that we're in now. But there was still an intentionality to it that said, okay, we're not going to just do this once. We feel like this is something that we want to do on a regular basis. There was no master plan that said, all right, by the time we get to 2025, this is what it's going to look like. But there was an intentionality that said, all right, how do we want to set this up to be able to continue to move forward with it? In other words, it's not just, hey, let's just come up with something and see how it goes. And maybe if it goes well, maybe we'll do it again next year. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. There's got to be this intentionality of how do we want to set this up for some sort of longevity? And maybe year one, budgets, people resources, whatever you've got available to you is going to limit what you do. But if you never think bigger than that, then it's never going to grow with any sort of real intentionality. Whatever the limitations of resources are, embrace whatever you've got, and then God will supply what he wants you to have as you move forward. The other part of it is just deciding what is it that makes sense for our ministry to do. So, when I was at First Baptist Dallas, which is only, 25 miles to the south of here down the tollway, First Baptist Dallas didn't need to make a competing version of the gift of Christmas. First Baptist Dallas has a very different set of strengths and things that they play to and things that people like. First Baptist Dallas has a super strong orchestra, super strong choir, and a lot of times more, First Baptist Dallas is going to have a different ability to do like classical style music as opposed to what Prestonwood might do. So we really leaned into the strengths of the resources that First Baptist Dallas had. And while it was, it's still a church Christmas show, so there's going to be certain elements that are the same wherever you go. It made sense there. And if you went to the Gift of Christmas one night and First Baptist Dallas's show the next night, you're not necessarily comparing and saying, well, this one was way better. You're probably walking away from that saying, well, those were both really good and very different. My personal preference maybe prefers this one, but those were both done with excellence. And it drew in a lot of people who needed to hear the gospel. So thinking about, because people will contact us and say, hey, could we, how did you do this? And can we get this piece of content that you guys use or whatever? And the answer is usually, hey, we're happy to help you, but maybe you don't need to try and do the exact same thing that we're doing. You should probably look at what's good for you and for your church and what your mission and values are, and do something that fits within that so that God can bless it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, Bryan, I kind of liken it to, it doesn't even matter if the church is as big as Prestonwood. They're in a different context. They have different resources. They have different people. Right. It's kind of like, an NFL team looking at the Dallas Cowboys and saying, we want to do what they do, but they're, they just don't have the same resource level. So those little commanders should just stick with what they got.
How dare you? We went to the NFC Championship and we would have beat the Eagles, and then we would have beat the freaking Chiefs if we hadn't gotten a couple bad calls.
Sure.
Oh, it's the bad calls. Yeah, it always has been for Washington.
Yep. Always blame those bad calls.
I would bet Toby's life that we will have a better record than Dallas this year.
So, Bryan, in the book, we talk about some of the, the funny mishaps that happen, including the flying drummer and then one rogue elephant. I know, to break the veil for people that think Gift of Christmas, just comes off without a hitch every single year. You guys are the most excellent production ever, but can you give us a couple other moments where things still went wrong? As much as you aim for excellence, things happen.
A disaster that was almost as bad as Toby's segue there.
He's doing the best he can.
I know.
It is actually shocking to all of us each year how smooth everything goes. Now, I take that back to my initial statement at the beginning of this podcast, related to alcohol, apparently, that preparation is how we ensure that happens as best we can. That being said, there's a couple things that have happened in the past 5 or 6 years that were just, there's the things that happen and then 99% of the audience has no idea what goes on. Then there's the things that happen that it's like, okay, we can't get out of this. Yeah. There's no way to get around it. We have these giant moving panels that are on the stage. They can, there's 7 or 9 of them, I forget at the moment, on each side. And they kind of accordion out and they close to create a wall. And there's projection on it. So it's being projection mapped as it goes. And each pair of panels can move on their own. And so we can create different looks with it. And the thing about it is those panels are 35 feet tall, I think it is, maybe taller than that. And at the bottom, they have these plates that go down into a track just to keep them on. So they're cable run on the top on a truss. And then when they come down, there's a track that guides them. So the big thing every year is we tell the cast, look, these panels will win if you get in a fight with them. They will absolutely do what they do. We actually have 2 people on the crew whose job it is on either side of the stage to walk with the panels right behind them as they're moving and shove people out of the way when they have messed up and gotten in the way.
Yeah.
And that is, if you can watch my behind the scenes camera at front of house, you will see these guys walking, and most of the time they're just walking along. It's like, why are we even here? And then there's that one moment where it's like, whoa, and they're like, and they have to be bigger guys because they are knocking people out of the way if it happens. Well, a few years back, it was during the dress rehearsal, but our dress rehearsal is a performance. We invite special needs folks from different places, children's homes, all sorts of different ministries or groups of people that might not be able to come to a regular show for whatever reason. So we'll have, 1,000 people watching the dress rehearsal. And we had this girl in the student ministry who, the blocking is very specific and it's there for a reason, but she just got out of line a little bit and that panel was moving and it caught her foot. And fortunately, she was able to get her foot out of her shoe, but I think she broke her ankle with that. But the problem with the show is that it stopped the panels and that stops everything. We are dead in the water when the panels stop moving and it's over. And at this point, it was before we had made some other tweaks. And in order to reset the panels, a rigger has to go up on the track, reset all of the winches and motors and everything that are running all that. And it's a good 20 to 30 minute process to do that. So it wasn't a paying show, but it was a show of, like I said, about 1,000 people, and we all just had to sit there until that got reset. One of the more painful moments was, and this was a while back, I can't remember what year it was, but there was a year where we have flying angels and we have 5 main tracks where they fly in and they can do all the axes and stuff like that. And the house left flying angel at the end of the sequence started to go out and something happened with the motor system and she got stuck there. And she was just high enough and out of the way enough where it didn't impact what most people were seeing, but she was there and she hung there for quite some time as the show went on. But, you can kind of see people in the audience like, hey, that doesn't look quite right. She was there for a while and that it didn't stop the show, but we were just a few moments away from having to stop it to do an emergency deal. But ZFX is amazing. They do all the flying elements. And so they have lots of redundancies put in so that they can get somebody to safety easily. But those are the 2 biggest things that come to mind. We have got so much redundancy built into the show. And again, it's the preparation. Yeah. Jonathan Walker, our music director, who writes and arranges all the music for this, and he's in the pit playing and leading the rhythm section and everything. Everything's coming off of a Pro Tools computer, but everything is redundant. So we've got 2 Pro Tools systems running simultaneously. All of the time code, all of the MIDI information, everything is going through devices that if one fails, it switches over instantly. And we run that failover before every single show to make sure it's working. And even somebody who knows what's going on would never know when the failover happens. In fact, sometimes Jonathan doesn't even know. It happens. Usually in the run of a show, it'll happen 2, maybe 3 times. And it's usually him looking over and realizing, oh, that computer's rebooting. And, so we don't even know that it's happening. So there's a lot of work that goes into ensuring that we don't have these embarrassing moments, because it's, like I said, it's a paid event. Mm-hmm. And so we don't want people feeling like, well, I paid money for this ticket, but this is just kind of a rinky-dink church production, and I really didn't get my money's worth.
Yeah.
And safety. For us, safety is a massive factor in this.
Blake, it's kind of how I don't even know if you know this, but I keep a backup Blake for all these episodes, and sometimes it switches over. You don't even know it. But the problem is when you make a copy of something, it degrades, and because of who you are, like, it's incredibly degraded.
Toby, I don't know.
It's like the Homer Simpson. It's like the Homer Simpson cloning episode.
Uh-huh.
I do not have enough brain cells for us to be mitosin, meiosin, me down. That's not good.
Bryan, I really hope, just hearing these stories that other churches out there are thinking, if I want to do something excellent, well, if I want to do it to the gift of Christmas level, holy mackerel, the amount of preparation, the amount of people, backups and systems and all the stuff that goes into it. Whew, maybe I'll rethink. See, I'm breaking down.
Toby, stick to snapshot. That's your best word you've ever made up.
Exactly.
Rethink does not work.
But just, shrinking your vision down to where you can actually achieve it excellently at your church. And I can almost guarantee you it's going to be a lot smaller than the gift of Christmas, because very few churches are capable of that size.
I would hope I would hope that that's not a negative connotation for it's not less than. Whatever your resources are, do everything you can to the ability of those resources. Don't overreach, but then also don't settle for less than what you can do. Keep pushing for that. I just truly believe that God honors that one way or the other. One of the things that I have the joy of getting to do is every semester at Dallas Baptist University, I teach a class. And in the spring, it's a lighting for video class, but in the fall, it's a production class. And it's basically paralleling the gift of Christmas in a kind of a real life aspect of how do we create a production from blue sky to execution of the production all the way to the end. Yeah. And as we go through that, a huge part, the two biggest themes of that class are, number one, collaboration, which is something that is vital to the gift of Christmas. And I would argue also what we do every week in our Sunday morning services, but collaboration, and then preparation from the aspect of what are we trying to do, what's available to us, and how do we weigh what's the best stewardship for what it is that we're trying to do. So I teach the students how to come up with a design for a stage plot and things, and then go contact rental companies and find out, well, how much would it cost if I want to do an LED wall? Because everybody wants an LED wall. So how important is that to the show versus how much does it cost? So what's the value of it? Yeah. Stewardship is a huge key to any of the productions that we do like this, because it's going to cost money, and it's going to cost people time and energy and resources. And so we have to determine what the value is of that, what God is calling us to do, and then what the actual price tag is. Because sometimes the price tag is really, really high, but the value is high enough where that makes sense to put those together. Yeah. But when those are out of balance, that's where we have problems.
Yeah, and I just want to say to listeners that might be thinking, gosh, after hearing all these details and thinking what it takes to put this on, like, that's just a ridiculous use of, or misuse of funds and resources and time. But, as you've told me, as you've said, so many tens and tens of thousands of people hear the gospel every year that, you guys have weighed, you have measured, and you have said this is absolutely worth it for the souls that we are reaching when we do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's in some people are getting tired of the word intentional, but I will say it's intentional and strategic. When these people at the end of the show, they hear a clear-cut, no way around it gospel invitation. To be honest with you, the Act 2 and Act 3 themselves are a clear cut. You can't get past it. This is the gospel. This is what Jesus did for you. But then the pastor comes in and just, brings it all to a head. And we ask people to, shine their flashlights on their phone if they've made a decision. And if we left it at that, that would be kind of tough, because it's like, okay, I saw a bunch of flashlights. I don't know what that means. But we're asking them, they have two different ways they can respond. They can text a number and say, they can text Jesus to 74788, and
Jesus?
they can text the word Jesus to the number 74788. I don't know if Jesus actually answers that himself. We haven't been able to clarify that, but a bunch of people at Prestonwood definitely respond to it. And then they can go out in the lobby. If they don't want to do that, they can talk to somebody in person. And after every show, we've got so many people. So the statistics at the end of the run of the show that we have are, I would say, conservative, just because we're only counting the people who have actually contacted us or we've been able to talk to. Yeah. But typically by the end of the run of show, we'll have anywhere, depending on the year, we'll have anywhere from 600 to 800 or 900 people who have made confessions of faith that we can say we've talked to them, we're helping them, we're discipling them, and we're following up with them. Who knows how many more that just kind of went on about their lives, but maybe they were touched by that.
Yeah. Bryan, if you were going to, sum up or give us a tech takeaways, we like to say at the end of every episode, and for churches with maybe limited resources or their production isn't as excellent as they would love it to be, how would you encourage them with a tech takeaway in, something that can apply to a room full of pastors or worship leaders or tech directors to make their productions to move towards excellence?
One of the biggest takeaways that I hope churches hear from this discussion that we're having is, number one, don't copy other people. Stop looking at other churches and ministries and saying, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Use other churches and other ministries as an encouragement. Use them as maybe even, oh, that's interesting. I want to learn more about how they're doing that. But stop doing this thing where the value of this comes from that church is really successful, so let's do what they're doing. Because what Prestonwood is doing works for us because of all the things that we've talked about in this episode.
Yeah.
That may not work for you. Chances are it won't, for a bunch of different reasons. So number one, don't allow envy or any other version of that to drive the fact that I want to be like that. So there's that part of it. And then the other part is, don't go the opposite way and just assume, well, we don't have the resources, we can't do it. Dream of what it is that you believe God is putting on your heart. Talk to other people about it. One of my favorite things to do is, what we're doing right now, but also when people call and say, hey, tell me about how you guys are doing this. And they're not looking to copy it. They're just trying to figure out, how could this work in our world? So look at what all is going out there and use it as inspiration, right? And not don't let it kind of go against what you're trying to do and be depressing because, well, we don't have enough money to do that. Don't put a cap on what God may want to do with your ministry. Dream about it.
Yeah.
Go out there, shoot for, above what you think maybe is possible. Because again, scripture tells us that God can do things with us that we don't even realize is possible for us to do. So do that. But really, the collaborative aspect within your ministry, but also with other people, is going to help that a lot. Have conversations with people who are doing things that inspire you and see where that comes from. Most of the time, when you have those conversations, it's really encouraging because you'll find that they don't have it all together. Like I said, I teach a class at DBU about how to do the production process. there's a large percentage of the stuff that I teach that we don't necessarily do it that way. I'm just saying this would be better if we did it this way. And I would recommend doing it this way, but it works for us over here only because of maybe the type of people who are involved or whatever.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just an idea of use this all as encouragement and inspiration, and don't allow sinful pride and other things to get in and mess up what it is that God wants to do with your ministry.
Yeah, I love that. If you're listening and you want to learn more about Gift of Christmas, you want to learn more about the elements of excellent production, many more things, I'm going to throw out the pitch for my book again, because, I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this series. You can go to tobywalters.com or churchgear.com/TobyWalters. They'll get you to the same places, and you can click to order the book. What part of this interview are you most excited to expand on, as you never read my book?
Well, me and Bryan did talk about it. I was going to read half. He was going to read half. He decided to read the whole thing. I don't know that I can expand on any more thoughts, because as you keep cloning me, I'm struggling to hold on to any train of thought here. My brain has been diluted.
I know. It's Friday afternoon. You have not had enough Diet Coke yet to
There's bourbon in my Diet Coke.
Exactly.
My brain cells haven't regenerated. Go to the show notes, and you can either, depending upon the time of year, you can pre-order Toby's book, or you can order Toby's book.
I know.
And depending upon the time of year, you might need something to keep you warm, and it does burn in the fireplace. So it can help get that fire going for you.
Exactly. Once you realize what it takes to put on the Gift of Christmas,
you can chuck it in the fire.
Love it. Bryan, as always, I'm sorry for Blake, but thank you for suffering through and joining us here on the Church Gear Podcast. Blake, what would you like to say to Bryan?
Bryan, we just appreciate you joining. Normally, Toby addresses all his abuse to me, but he did hit you pretty hard in the beginning with that survey. That actually was a survey about me, just to let you off the hook. It wasn't your name. It was mine.
Okay. Look, guys, I always know what I'm getting into when I sit down to talk with you guys. So I am well prepared, thick skin. I deal with much worse than you guys on a regular basis.
Literally impossible. Also, are we going to visit him in August?
In August?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. We'll talk about that off camera. Yeah.
And this is coming out after August.
Nice. I know.
The next time we have Bryan on the podcast, there will be some antics to share.
That's right.
Maybe a police report. I don't know.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Bryan, we're going to wrap this up. It's Friday, and I got to get to the pool. So, man, we appreciate you joining us.
You do. You need some sun, man.
All right. See you, man.
See y'all.
And now it's time for a Church Tech Confessional, where church production people confess the worst thing they've ever done in church production. Here's one now.
I was running proper, and I zoned off whenever our next announcer came up, and I did not click her slides at all until I realized that she was saying the wrong word, and then I realized I was zoned out. And so that kind of fused her, and she did not know the words that she was trying to say.
Do you have your own Church Tech Confessional that's, 45 seconds to 2 minutes? Send it to blake@churchgear.com, and you might just hear it on the podcast.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We hope to see you back next week for more absurd stories, tech takeaways, and overall buffoonery here at the Church Gear Studios.
All right, Blake, of the 8 people that are going to buy my book, what percentage do you really think are going to burn it?
I love that you think 8 people are going to buy your book. Toby, I'm doing the marketing.
Well, I'm giving away 7 copies. So.
8,800,000 people are going to read your book.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah. So what percentage are going to burn it for the heresy that's written in there?
8,800,000 are going to burn it.
Love it. Again, share this episode and share my book. TobyWalters.com, churchgear.com/TobyWalters.
You should offer to do something.
We should offer to do something.
If X amount gets sold in the pre-sale, you would do something.
Shave one of my eyebrows. I don't know.
Would you really? Would you really?
Sure.
Shave. Hang on. I want more. You're gonna shave the whole side of half your face: an eyebrow, mustache, beard. If we get how many pre-sales by the end of 2025?
2,000.
All right, that's a deal. Let's go ahead and get that pre-sale in, please. This would make my life. This is not funny anymore. This is real.
Yeah.